All right, Cyber Traders, welcome on back here this Thursday, January 13th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back for our afternoon meeting. Great to see Andrea, Norman, Brian, who I think you wrote earlier, he jinxed the QS trade. I don't know about that, Brian. We'll check in with the QS trade. Great to see Will. Great to see Patrick. Great to see Deb and all of us otherwise live inside the Cyber Group room. Gary, Lawrence, Phil, Glenn, all joining us as well. Kathleen included. Perfect. All right. So, and once again, if you're joining us back on social media, Facebook Live or YouTube, welcome on back. So, let's hop right into it here. Andrea just called out the AUPH trade right before we started the meeting. Really nice call out at the time, and hopefully this keeps going. You know, I always say I love the afternoon volatility. On a stock like this, wasn't doing much up until this point, but obviously some sort of news had to have come out. That would be my guess, at least. Let me just pull this up really quick. I didn't check this before we started the meeting. So AUPH, wow, how about this? Little egg on my face here. I got nothing. I got no news on AUPH so far. Normally, if there is news that were to come out, Benzinga Pro here that I use, they would be pretty early to the punch, if not all over it. So, if there is any news, perhaps they'll report it once they see it. But either way, Pop, we'll put this on our watch list for the afternoon, just given the afternoon volume and volatility. Here's my notepad. AUPH. All right. I had another one that I saw from Benzinga, but the chart honestly did not look good whatsoever. So we're going to pass on that one. We'll probably find it on the gainers side as we go through. But I'll tell you what, we had a pretty good day today altogether. If it wasn't just, one stock on the way up, then it could have been a nice short on the way down with the market. So, let's just go right from top to bottom. Any of the other stocks that we ended up trading or calling out from earlier today, we'll quickly recap. And then from that point, we'll kind of build up our list, as we go. Gino just typed inside Cyber Group right now, the top percent gainer here, the SGLY. And of course, we're going to start right from the top with this trade. Ended up just breaking a new high the day itself. So great call from Gino here live inside Cyber Group. Yeah, the way this looks, right? Hard for us to not put the top percent gainer, which is at the highs, on the afternoon watch list here. So for right now, let me just zoom out on the daily chart. So not all-time highs, but it's approaching, clearly, as you could see here, really strong resistance roughly off the highs back from last week, 545, 538, 41, 42. I would just lean and say anywhere between 541 to 545, you should have a pretty strong daily chart level. Then if it breaks that, then we'll check back in with this trade in a bit. We'll see, where the next daily chart level is. There could always be an iceberg order that pops up on level 3, my trade station matrix on the far right side. So just be mindful of that, right? Gino, look at that, man. He just picked up 50 cents. He just closed out his trade just now as we're doing this meeting. Gino, love the trade, man. What was the entry point on that on that stock that you jumped into? The SGLY. What was the entry point there? I assume he probably got in right off of like 475 or so. That would be my shoot from hip guess. Is going to type it in the chat board here in a moment. Let's keep going, though. In the meantime, though, the SGLY definitely we'll put on our watch list here so far for the afternoon. Otherwise, though, got a couple of cheapies here on the gainers list. Here the ESGC trade. This one, I guess, is trying to inch back up right now, but after RMTI from earlier today, I don't know. I mean, this was just such a dud after the open. I was so hopeful for this to make a bigger pop, perhaps even as high up to 80, 82, or 83 cents. That was a really strong daily chart level as well, looking at this RMTI stack. Right over here, just about 83, 84 cents. Really strong support. You would assume for that to be a really strong resistance if it were to get up to there. It didn't even come close. So, that's why I'm not normally as much of a fan of these like cheapies below $1, because they normally don't make as concise of a move as you would hope to see. All right, how about this? A couple things here in the chat board. Going back to SGLY, Gino ended up getting in on that trade at 486. That was pretty close. There we go. So Gino in at 486, got out with a 50-cent profit. Ended up getting out pretty damn close to the highs then in that case. Excellent. Michael on AUPH just posting the news on that stock right now inside Cyber Group. Oh, that's right. It wasn't up as much. We'd find it anyway. Top bottom. But AUPH reports positive update on a drug to treat active lupus. That's pretty much it. So, hey, pop up nicely, dropping back down pretty nicely. Hopefully that stock can build up some support. And as we keep going, well, the next one up here, Deb inside the Cyber Group room says, BBIG up to 350, right? This is literally the next stock on the gainers list here. So let's keep going. Needless to be said, looking at the chart, this goes right on our watch list so far, BBIG. Now I mentioned this earlier, Deb, so just be careful, not just at 350, but above 350, 355. There's a bit of an order around there, 360. I would assume 370. There's like a tinier iceberg, if that's what you want to call it, at 365, like 10,000 shares. But 55, 60 are also big levels. I would also assume 370 to be if this keeps pushing up nicely, and it is. Let's see. About 14,000 shares so far, 370. 355-ish. You have a combination of some bigger orders here, 360, about 28,000 shares. So this one's looking really, really good so far. Nice continued move from yesterday, right? All right, so we'll keep it going. ZKIN, I feel like this is another NFT type of stock. I could be wrong on that. I don't really care to check. Just to say right now, this stock is pushing up relatively nicely here. A bit spotty on the chart up until going into like 2 p.m. That's when it started to trade a little bit more volume. But the way it looks, right, it's hard for us to not put this on our list. ZKIN. Dave, not Dave and Buster's necessarily. I don't know what this company is. Is it Dave Inc.? I don't know what the daily chart is showing me here, folks. This is all over the map. I guess either a new IPO or something had to have happened to allow this drop off from basically 10 down to 5, then back up to 750 today. Man, this thing's been all over the map. By the way, look at the top 2% losers here today. I just wanted to point that out. Something pretty funny. I thought the Vine trade would have moved with Vine today. Well, I was right, but wrong in the direction. You know what I mean? Like I thought because the VINE trade pushed up so nicely the last 2 days, that's practically as to why Vine VYNE is up so much. And that actually ended up dropping so much today. That's now the top percent loser. That was on the gainers list to start off. All right, so keep it going though. Otherwise here, folks, KBH. A bit expensive, but I'll tell you what, this thing for $49, $50 stock, nearly trading a lot of volume per minute. The daily chart here pretty fast. Might stick on monthly here for a little while, but yeah, it's not at all-time highs. Getting a little close to 52-week highs and multi-year highs, perhaps with that in mind. I don't know. I don't really feel a need to put this type of stock on our watch list. I want to focus on stocks that have better liquidity. We already have 4 on our watch list so far that do. So, you know what? I'll come back to this at the end. I don't mind slipping this on our list if we don't really have too many to work off of. But let's see if there's anything else looking better. And with that, BBBY is definitely a stock I would much rather follow heading into the afternoon, right? In terms of liquidity and price, this thing's 3 to 4 times cheaper than the other one, and penny spread the whole way through. It's been on a tear the whole day. Ended up making a nice drop off at least after failing to move up higher from 1625, but getting right back up to 16 right now. So yeah, Bed Bath Beyond we'll definitely put on our watch list. Now, speaking of the NFT stocks, we had TKAT. We ended up having YVR, I think it was. Those were the 2 NFT stocks that ended up making a big pop here today. It's the monthly chart, right? So dating back to January, February of last year, we ended up seeing them explode, make a huge move up. It was TKAT. It was YVR. Same exact spike on the monthly chart there. The other one I think was OCG. This newer stock, newer IPO, but same thing. But TKAT's the only one that we ended up really following. TKAT today and the YVR, both of those we actually ended up following today. But just keep them on your side list tomorrow and next week, perhaps going forward, perhaps with Bitcoin. Blue Apron. This is one that we're pretty familiar with. We ended up trading this off its IPO, and then as well going into this year, ended up making a bit of a smaller short squeeze. Ended up running up pretty nicely, for a few days in a row. For right now, pushing up pretty nicely. Decent volume on the order book. I don't mind it. I don't mind slipping this on our list for right now. Blue Apron. Grubhub here, a couple of other familiar names just on the gainer side. We'll jump over to the losers list next, and looking at the way the SPY looks, you would know I would say this at this point, and I'm sure that we would find more, on the loser side as a short. Michael calling out Mara. Space has been a drop off throughout the morning heading into the afternoon. So, there's definitely going to be a few stocks kind of turning themselves on the way down, or if not at the lows right now. So, we'll check in on the loser side here in a second. Going down here per se. Save Spirit Airlines ended up making a nice move from this morning. I feel like the airlines all together ended up doing so, but the way the SPY's looking right now, this is where I was saying they're beginning to turn themselves on the way down here, making lower highs, beginning to pull back here. American Airlines pretty much always tradable unless it's just too slow to the point of trying to follow. The stock trades a lot of volume on a day-to-day basis. Between this Spirit here, I wouldn't mind adding them to our watch list. I just want to see if there's anything more clear on the way up or on the way down more so heading into the afternoon. All right, so let's just check out Vine and Space and then everything else here. What a disaster. VINE, let's just check, go back to the daily chart for right now. So this is the stock that we ended up seeing back from Tuesday's trading, ended up making a huge breakout from 4 all the way up to 8, ended up dumping all the way back down to 6. Well, yesterday ended up going all the way back up from 550 all the way up to over 9, came all the way back down to 7. You can't keep expecting the stock to go up and up and up, but this morning we ended up seeing not VINE, but VYNE. This stock was on the top of the gainers list this morning. It's a cheapie, but it was up like, 15-20% this morning. It was one of the top 5 gainers, if not top 3. It's crazy to see a top percent gainer literally turn into one of the top percent losers across the day. But, it just goes to show, and even if there is news that came out on the stock that led to the pump up early, that makes my, case here even better. Just to say that you can't hope and hold. You can't anticipate for the stock to just make a higher high after the open or at some point throughout the day, just because it was up to begin with, right? And if news came out, good news of that matter, you can't hope on the news. You can't rely on the news. Look what happened to this thing. So if you try day trading this, trying to, hit it big on a cheap stock, trading 5, 10, 20,000 shares, think about it. That's not a whole lot of money compared to, trading 1,000 shares of a $20 stock. Same thing. So, there are folks that do that, but imagine holding on. That's where you get crushed. So, what we teach here at Cyber Trading University is exactly how to prevent doing that, right? The simple answer is to say, hey, you could just set a stop, right? But a lot of us are still pretty timid of setting the stops. It's not just about the mechanics of doing it. It's about the psychology behind it. And that's what we teach. So, as we keep going, well, not everything we're trying to buy and sell, maybe something we're trying to short and then perhaps cover into the close. Look at Space making a lower high just recently, roughly off of 1040, 1045, and dropping back down to the lows of the day here. I would assume for there to be a major support off of 10. Man, this is crazy. I can't believe Space ended up dropping off as much as it did over the last year. Look at this daily chart. This is pretty crazy itself. That's a crazy monthly chart just over the last, 2.5, 3 years, if anything. It's coming close to all-time lows, you could start to say. That's back from November of 19. It's got a little bit of a ways to go, but 690 all-time low, it looks like. All right, so Space as a short, we'll try and follow this further on the way down. QTT on the gainers list last couple of days. It's at the lows, shortable, cheapy, tradable in that regard. But the chart honestly is a bit spotty here. It's only trading 855,000 shares, which is enough, at this time of the day for what we teach. But the more the better, typically, unless if it's trading just too much. You got to find a bit of a gray area, and the gray area is pretty big, to be honest. But I don't know. This just doesn't really seem that worth it for right now. Then everything else is hard to borrow. That you can't really get the shares to short if it's on the losers list. You can, but you have to check in early. Oftentimes, heading into this time of the day, they're impossible to borrow. Everything else, otherwise, that is shortable. PL. This was one we ended up trading yesterday. Ooh, this one's dropping off pretty nicely. Oh, nice. I'd rather look at this. I'd rather follow this one heading into the close compared to that QTT, right? Gotta prioritize. So this PL trade, I don't mind if I do. Really. Got an iceberg right now, literally at the low of the day, 13,000 share order on the bid at 560. Oh, really quick, folks, for all of us live inside Cyber Group, this doesn't unfortunately pertain to anyone on social media. It can if you want to join us live inside our trading room, but it's to say for anyone that's a part of the Phase 2 stock course, I caught probably what is one of the coolest, most intriguing sequences in terms of, order flow and volume that I've personally have ever seen in the last like 7 years that I've been here. BTCS, this stock is cooked right now. And I'm sure we would have found this at some point. Actually, we wouldn't have. It's only still up 1%. I thought it was down enough to make the losers list at this point. But, either way, needless to be said, we're not going to watch this stock heading into the close. But I saw probably what was one of the more intriguing sequences of order flow. These huge orders stacked up on the bid at the same exact price. I think it was at 770. I was calling it out inside the live trading room. Just keep this in mind. I don't expect anybody to remember this day over day, but we'll come back to this in March when I teach the next set of classes regarding level 3, the order book, order flow altogether. Some cool stuff on the way. So I took a really good picture of it right before it happened. Stock ended up squeezing up perfectly from 762, 770-ish, that area, all the way up. And it ended up coming right back down after failing to test 9. So, right after that, a lot of us ended up getting out as far as an early afternoon trade. Myself, Ari, I think Patrick. At that point, though, this thing was cooked. This thing is done now. For as much as it ran up the last 2.5 days, you got to expect this stock to begin to pull back. And if it's not going to break higher, you know what's going to happen. So just wanted to mention that as far as like an interesting thing that we followed inside the live trading room earlier today. But that's it. Michael's got AMC low of the day down over 5%. Sure is. Looks good. Ford on the way down to 25. I mean, Ford's definitely a tradable stock by all measures. If you do well on Ford on a day-to-day basis, then I'm sure that you'd be more inclined to follow Ford today. I could say this with pretty much like every other sideless stock out there. NEO chart doesn't look that great, but I'm sure I could say that to a good degree on NEO. I could say that on one of the airlines. I could say that on a cruise line, perhaps like CCL. So if I don't add it to the main watch list, if you know who you are in the trading room, I'm sure that you have a pretty good idea as far as tradable, not tradable, and all that stuff. Mara at the low of the day from Michael, that was from earlier, and it is down near 7%. We'll talk Bitcoin tomorrow, folks, and we'll check in with that heading into the weekend. But for right now, Mara moving with the market right now heading into the afternoon. So you know what? I'm more intrigued by putting this on our list as this is just right near the lows, right? Just checking on Riot pretty quick. Riot's not making as steady of a drop. Interesting, Mike. All right, well, Mara definitely will put on our watch list for right now. Checking on BBIG here to finish up. There's 360. Now we have not 370, 375. There's a 30,000 share order on the ask. So, there's a bunch of bigger orders that are out there for this stock, folks. It's on a really nice tear for right now. So, I feel pretty confident in continuation, but I would anticipate for there to be a bit of turbulence right around that 375 price. Last one, I think we were going to check back in on the KBH stock, right? For any one of us joining on Facebook Live or YouTube today, if there's anything that you folks see, just type in the chat board. Just let me know. I don't need to put this on our watch list. I feel like at this point, we got a decent list here for right now. We got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 stocks to work with. Mike says snap at the low of the day. I haven't heard Snapchat call out in a while. Wow. Yeah, it's starting to fall back more than our price range. About time. The stock ended up taking off going back into the last year, right? Year and a half. So it fell out of our price range, dropped off of earnings going back into, mid-October, early November time. And then it's been on just a straight dart since on the way down. Yeah, this looks good. Actually, I'm going to slip this on our list here, Mike. Good call. All right, so I don't like adding too many stocks to a watch list, folks. I'm sure that there could be one more as well I could add, but I'll tell you, this is as good as we can get, folks. Norman with the apron trade. Apron's already on there, thankfully. Thankfully, we already covered that one. That one's already on there. But, aside from that, though, folks, for all of us on Facebook Live, YouTube, I appreciate you sticking with me each and every day, each and every afternoon. I know that Fausto's back in his seat, and that's great to have. Thankfully, Fausto back in the saddle in full force. So, hey, for anyone joining me in the mornings this week, I appreciate you as well. If you have any questions, feel more than free to send over an email right to josh@c2trading.com. That's my email address right there. If you wanted to continue with the audio commentary in our live trading room, feel more than free to go right down to the link on the banner below the stream there just to get yourself started. But for Mike, Norman, Leda, Kathleen, Grant, Norman, Michael, everyone else in the chat board right there. I have my chat kind of minimized a bit. Phil, Glenn, Gino, etc. I look forward to talking to you folks coming up pretty shortly at 3:30 Eastern. Take care.